Hey guys, how are you today? I don't know what brought you here. Maybe you're just scrolling, maybe you're stuck, or maybe you've quietly been battling something way too heavy for way too long. Either way, I need you to really listen tonight. We're about to take flight into a story so brutally beautiful that it just might sting a little. You see, it's going to be really hard to change yourself overnight. No magic pill, no 10-minute fix.so before you get comfortable. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if something in this story makes your chest feel a little warmer or your spine sit a little straighter, drop a comment. Tell me what you felt. Now just imagine you're an eagle and see what happens next. You used to own the sky. There was a time when you cut through clouds like scissors through silk. Every gust of wind bowed to your wingspan. Every creature below tilted its head just a little when your shadow passed overhead. You weren't just surviving, you were soaring. Effortless, powerful, feared, admired, but not anymore. Now, your claws are blunt. Your beak is cracked. Your wings? They drag. Heavy, slow, like soaked canvas trying to remember how to be sails. The sky, it feels farther away now, like it's rejecting you. And the worst part? It didn't happen all at once. No dramatic fall, no sudden crash. Just the quiet erosion of everything that once made you you. Tiny disappointments stacking on top of each other. A dream deferred here, a betrayal there. The slow decay of confidence like rust under gold. Until one day, you look at yourself and you don't recognize the creature staring back. You try to fly. You flap harder. You push. But nothing lifts. Every attempt hurts. Every effort ends in failure. You're clumsy where you used to be graceful. You're ignored where you used to command attention. And inside, something whispers, maybe that version of you is gone for good. You hate it. You hate this version of yourself, but not enough to do something about it. Not yet. You keep pretending. Keep going through the motions. Keep telling yourself, maybe tomorrow you'll feel stronger. Maybe if you just keep doing what you've always done, the fire will return. Spoiler, it won't, and you know it. You can feel it deep in your bones. That uncomfortable truth that things will not fix themselves. That no one is coming to save you. That if you want to become more than what you are now, something inside you has to die. And that realization is terrifying. So you stall. You wait. You scroll. You tell yourself you're not ready. That maybe it's not that bad. That maybe the storm will pass. But storms don't care if you're tired. They don't wait for your courage. They rage regardless. And eventually, you're going to have to decide. Do you stay here, broken and grounded, watching others rise while you rot? Or do you do the unthinkable? You've heard the story, somewhere, somehow, of the eagle who lived too long. How it reached an age where everything that once made it strong failed it. Its beak curved downward, useless for hunting. Its claws no longer sharp enough to grip. Its feathers too heavy, too tangled, too brittle to fly. And so it faced a choice. Die or endure a rebirth so painful, so absolute, it would take nearly half a year to complete. You laugh when you first remember it. Sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But tonight, with your wings limp at your side and your claws scraping against cold stone, it doesn't feel like a myth. It feels like a mirror. You realize this is your cliff, your turning point. You can't stay in the valley anymore. Not like this. The predators you used to scare, they circle you now. The winds that once carried you, they knock you off balance that you're no longer feared. You're pitted, or worse, forgotten. And let's be real, what's more painful than being invisible in a world where you once shined? It's here, at this lowest moment, that something cracks, not outside, but deep inside your mind. A whisper of rebellion, a flicker of madness, an outrageous idea. What if you changed everything, not just a tweak, not a new routine, not a weekend detox? No, what if you burned the whole system down? What if you climbed higher than you've ever dared, disappeared from the world, and tore yourself apart just to rebuild? What if you chose the pain before the pain chose you? And yeah, people will think you're crazy. Some might even mock you for walking away. Let them, because you're not walking away from life. You're walking toward the next one. Tonight is the night you stop pretending. Tonight, the story changes. You look up, above the cliffs, above the clouds, to a peak so high, no predator would dare follow. You don't know what waits for you there. You only know this. If you stay here, you will die slowly, silently, forgotten. But if you climb, you might just come back a monster, not the villain kind, the unstoppable kind. You dig your claws, still dull, still trembling, into the rock and begin your ascent. The sky watches. The wind whispers. And for the first time in a long time, you rise. You climb like you've never climbed before, not with grace, but with grit. Every inch upward is a war between who you've been and who you're becoming. Your wings aren't helping much. They're more dead weight than lift. But you keep going. You dig into the rock with claws that don't want to cooperate. You slip. You bleed. But you don't stop. The wind gets colder the higher you go. The air thins. The world below shrinks into something distant, irrelevant. No voices here. No noise. Just you. And that relentless whisper in your chest that says, keep going. This mountaintop isn't just a place. It's a commitment. It's a line in the sand that says, the old me ends here. And when you finally reach it, it's not glorious. It's not some cinematic plateau bathed in golden light. That it's cold, bare, empty, perfect. Because up here, there's nothing to distract you. No mirrors, no validation, no applause. Only silence, and the brutal truth that change is not something that happens to you. It's something you rip out of yourself. You find a ledge, sharp and jagged, and settle into it like it's home. Your heart beats like a war drum, because it knows what comes next. No more pretending. No more halfway healing. The real work begins now. You stare down at your claws. These things used to grip, to tear, to win. Now they slip. They tremble. They fail you. So you make a decision. You slam them against the stone. Once. Twice. Again. It hurts. Not like a scrape or a sting. This pain is primal. It feels like betrayal. Like your own body is asking, why are you doing this to us? But you keep going. You know why? Because this version of you cannot survive what's coming. It has to. Go. The claws break. Not all at once, but enough. Fragments of your past self scatter across the rocks. And for a second, you freeze. You look at your broken hands and wonder if you've just made the biggest mistake of your life. But then, a strange calm, like the silence that follows a storm. Like your bones know this is the only way forward. Then comes the beak. You don't want to touch it. It's the part of you that's still familiar. Still you. But that's the trap, isn't it? Sometimes, the worst parts of us are the ones we cling to because we've had them the longest. So you do what has to be done. You slam it against the rock. The crack echoes louder than it should. Not because it's loud, but because it's final. You don't cry. You don't scream. You just breathe. Shallow, shaky. You sit in the dust of yourself and wait. And the waiting? That's the part no one tells you about. Because pain you expect. You brace for it. But silence, stillness, the nothingness that follows the breaking, that's where most people give up. You think maybe it's too late to fix this. You look down at your mangled self and wonder how long you'll have to wait for something to grow back. An hour? A day? Try months. That's what the story always forgets to mention. Not just the breaking, but the boring, painful, uneventful aftermath. There are no shortcuts here. No fast forwards. Just 150 days of you, stuck in a stone nest, unable to fly, barely able to eat, with nothing to do but heal and think. And, oh boy, do you think about the times you didn't act, the times you stayed too long in places that dimmed your light, the dreams you shelved, the words you never said, the people who said you couldn't, and how long you believed them. Regret becomes a roommate. Memory becomes a hammer. And self-doubt? It moves in like it owns the place. But there's something else too. beneath the ache, beneath the loneliness. A flicker, like the first spark before a flame. You realize you're not just breaking to break, that you're breaking to build. And that changes everything. You stop wishing to skip the hard parts. You start leaning into them. You begin to see this exile, not as punishment, but as preparation. The mountain becomes your forge. And you're the blade being reforged in fire and silence. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a strange thought drifts in. What if this is the best thing that's ever happened to you? Not the fall, not the failure, but the chance, the rare, brutal chance to remake yourself, completely, unapologetically, purposefully. And yeah, most people won't understand, but they'll say, you disappeared. They'll say, you're being dramatic. They'll whisper, you used to be so much more. Let them talk, because you know the truth. You didn't vanish. You ascended. And while they keep flapping in circles, chasing validation, you're up here, alone, yes, but evolving. Every hour up here is a seed. Every ache is a blueprint. And every day that passes is one step closer to becoming something they'll never see coming. You close your eyes. The wind howls outside, but inside, stillness, readiness that you're not who you were, not anymore. You wake up one morning and something's different. You don't notice it right away. Nothing dramatic. No lightning bolts or glowing auras. Just a little more strength when you shift your weight. A little less sting in your breath when the wind hits your chest. You glance down. The claws, once bloodied stumps, are starting to harden. Still tiny, still useless for flying or hunting, but growing. And it hits you. You're regenerating. This is what hope looks like, not fireworks. Not a motivational quote slapped over a mountain backdrop. No, hope is microscopic. It's subtle. It sneaks in through the cracks of routine misery and quietly plants its flag. But don't get too excited yet that you're still broken, still stranded, still at the mercy of your own biology and patience. And patience? That's a battle all its own, because now that you've tasted the possibility of transformation, waiting becomes agony. You want results. You want wings. You want to leap off this mountain and prove every doubter wrong. But nope, you get to sit and wait and be reminded every minute that true change refuses to be rushed. The world below keeps turning. You can feel it. Somewhere down there, people are checking their phones, going to work, chasing deadlines, scrolling through highlight reels, pretending to be whole. And you're here, growing bones that IT feels unfair. You gave everything to this process: pain, blood, isolation, and all you've got in return are awkward half-claws and a chipped ego. But that's the deal. The rebuild always takes longer than the break. There's no cheat code for evolution, no express lane for becoming. You spend your days in quiet discomfort, watching the sky change colors, learning the language of silence. Your mind drifts, sometimes forward, sometimes backward. You remember being a child. Remember how the world felt big? How every step outside your door was an adventure. What happened to that version of you? Somewhere along the line, you traded wonder for worry. You got efficient, predictable, safe. You became a shell of someone who once believed in magic, and now, sitting on this cliff, with your future dangling somewhere between maybe and what if, you find yourself mourning all the versions of you that never got a chance to live. But not today, because today, you've earned something nobody can see, something you can't even explain. Resilience, that it's not sexy, not flashy, but it's the foundation of every great comeback story. You drag yourself to the edge of your stone perch and look down again. The world still feels distant, but it's not as far as it was. You notice the clouds moving differently, slower, heavier, like they're waiting for you. And then, almost like a joke, a memory surfaces. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. 1,000. But that's not just failure. That's insanity with a vision board. But when someone asked him how it felt to fail that many times, he said, "I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 ways that won't work. That's the kind of madness you need to survive this climb. Because let's be honest, sanity never built anything legendary. Sanity doesn't rip its own beak off for a better one. Sanity doesn't choose pain over comfort. Sanity settles. But you're dangerous now, not because you're strong yet, but because you've already chosen the path of most resistance. And that makes you a threat to everything mediocre that a few more weeks pass. The beak returns, not quite as sharp as before, but with more purpose. Like it knows better what to fight for. The claws thicken. You begin to test them, scratching at the rock, gripping tighter, feeling the earth beneath you again like an old friend you forgot you missed. Still no flight. Not yet, but you start to move differently. Not faster, just more intentionally. Every twitch of muscle, every breath, every blink, it all starts to feel like part of the build. You even begin to enjoy the solitude. If there's no one up here telling you what you should be. No algorithms deciding your worth. No half-hearted praise from people who don't even know your middle name. Just you. The you that broke. The you that stayed. The you that's slowly rising from your own ashes without asking permission. And you begin to realize you don't want your old self back. You want revenge, but not against people. Revenge against apathy. Against fear. Against every time you said, I guess I'm just not that type of person. You are that person. You just hadn't met them yet. And maybe, just maybe, that's what this whole process is about. Not becoming someone new, but shedding the lies that told you you couldn't. Be who you already were. Somewhere behind you, a small stone falls, dislodged by a breeze, maybe, or a bird, or fate. You turn. You see the path that brought you here. Jagged, steep, cruel. You almost don't recognize it. And that's when it hits you. The climb wasn't the hard part. Letting go was. You sit there for a while longer, letting that thought settle. Letting it brand your soul like a quiet tattoo. And as the sun begins to dip, painting the sky with gold and blood, you whisper, I'm not done yet. Something cracks, not a bone, not a sound, but a moment that it's subtle, like the shift between night and day when you don't quite notice the sun creeping back in. But it's real. You stretch one claw and feel control. Real control. Not just movement, but strength. You flex it again. Yeah, that's not nothing. And suddenly, everything speeds up. It's like your body's been waiting for permission. Like, it wanted to be sure you were serious before it started handing back your power. And now it's delivering. The feathers you'd shed, they begin to return, one by one. Not falling into place like some angelic transformation sequence, but awkwardly poking out like rebellious sprouts on a shaved head. You don't feel majestic. You feel like a weird porcupine in a wind tunnel. But guess what? That's progress. Because finally, your biology is in sync with your will. That it's not easy, though. Growth hurts. Literally, your beak, still half-formed, aches like a phantom limb every time you clench it. Your wings? Still too weak to lift your weight. But now, at least, you're training. You start pacing. Not because you're nervous, but because there's energy to burn. Energy you made. Think about that you've been on this mountain for weeks, with no comforts, no shortcuts, no noise to distract you. You built this energy. From nothing, and the mountain, it's still silent. But that silence has changed. It's not mocking anymore. It's watching. Like an old master waiting to see if you're ready for the final test. Each day, you do more. You strike your claws against the rock, not to sharpen them, but to feel them. To remind yourself they're real. That you didn't imagine the progress. You spread your wings, not to fly, but to reach. To stretch them toward what's next, even if it's still far away. And every time you do, the air shifts. A breeze here. A gust there. Nothing dramatic, just whispers. You remember a quote you once heard in a documentary about Navy SEAL training. Brutal stuff. One recruit had said, the hardest part isn't the cold or the exhaustion. It's not knowing when it will end. That breaks people. And now you get it, because this This transformation, it doesn't come with a finish line. There's no buzzer, no trophy, no audience waiting to applaud. There's just you and this strange, relentless will to keep going. You sleep better now, not because you're more comfortable, but because exhaustion is finally giving way to peace. Real, earned peace. You wake up with sore joints, crusty eyes, and a growl in your stomach that feels almost primal. And still, you train, you flap your wings again and again until your muscles scream. You dig your claws into the earth, gripping tighter each time, daring it to resist you. And slowly, the pieces come back together, but something's changed. In your mind, too, that you're no longer desperate for the old you. You're curious about the new one, that you don't want to get back to anything. You want to break past everything, even the voices in your head, the ones that used to whisper, "What if you fail?" They've quieted, not because they're gone, but because you've learned to talk louder. And what you say now, it's not poetry, not quotes, not mantras from self-help books. That it's simple. It's gritty. I'm not dying like this. That's it. That one sentence becomes your war drum, your heartbeat, your breath. Because now, you're not just waiting to change, you're demanding it. And the universe listens. Point one morning, a shadow sweeps across the stone. You look up. A bird. Massive. Wingspan wide enough to block the sun eagle. Flying exactly where you used to fly. You watch it. Not with jealousy, but with calculation. You could fly again. Not today, but soon. You can feel it. In your shoulders. In your bones. In the way your claws grip without slipping. And for the first time, the sky doesn't intimidate you. It invites you. But you're not rushing. That you've learned better, because the sky will still be there tomorrow. And the next day. And the next. But this version of you, the rebuilding, grinding, clawing through the mud version, they only exist now. This is the crucible. This is the birth. And you don't want to skip it, because it's making you. Later, as twilight wraps the mountain in blue and ash, you sit still. No pacing, no flapping, no training. Just breathing. You've earned that, too. And in the distance, lightning splits the horizon, not a storm. A reminder that power doesn't always come quietly. Sometimes it roars. You smile, because next time it might be you. The moonlight stains the rocks silver, and tonight, the silence feels holy. That you're perched higher than before. Just a few feet, but enough to notice the change. Funny how altitude, even the smallest bit, shifts everything. The air feels thinner. The sky feels closer. And beneath you, the past version of yourself lies buried in that crevice. You don't mourn it, that eagle, the one who had to shatter itself to become something more. They serve their purpose. Now, it's your turn to rise. But let's not sugarcoat it. This is not your montage moment. No epic music. No miraculous flight scene. No slow-mo wing beat in golden light. This stage? It's a grind. Every feather that grows and itches like crazy. Your muscles spasm randomly like a phone on low battery. You're hungry, but your beak isn't sharp enough to hunt properly. Not yet. That it's a mess. A beautiful, infuriating mess. And you live in it like an artist who just spilled paint all over their canvas and decided, yeah, that's part of the vision. You're learning to love the ugly middle. Because here's the truth they don't tell you in self-help books. Most of transformation is boring. No fireworks. No applause. Just repetition. You practice wing lifts 100 times a day. Then 200. You test your balance on one foot like some feathered yoga reject. You try your first short leap and belly flop so hard you slide a foot backward. But you don't stop, because there's something new now, something glowing faintly inside your chest. That it's not hope. Hope is delicate. This is will. Heavy, sharp-edged, iron-willed stubbornness. That you're not going to become the eagle you used to be. You're going to become one that's never existed before, and you know that takes time. You remember that bizarre detail you once read in an article about octopuses. Apparently, if you trap an octopus in a jar and screw the lid shut, it will find a way to unscrew it from the inside. Why? Because it has to. Because survival unlocks genius. That's what's happening here. Your body is figuring itself out all over again. And every day, you give it the signal. Keep going. On day 60, because yes, you're counting, even if only through the angle of the moon. You manage to leap 3 feet into the air, not fly. Just leap, but you land on a ledge you couldn't reach before. That's everything. It's like your nervous system throws a party in your honor. Dopamine, adrenaline, the kind of buzz you only get when effort finally says, "Hey, nice job." And it gets addicting. Now you crave those tiny victories. The sound of your beak tapping against stone without bending. The satisfying scrape of talons anchoring into bark when you climb a tree for the first time in months. The way your feathers ruffle in the wind. No longer like loose paper, but like armor. You start testing boundaries. Leaping further. Holding stances longer. Pushing through the burn, not out of punishment, but because it means something's working. One afternoon, a storm rolls in, and instead of hiding, you climb to the peak. You let the wind slap your face. You let the rain soak every inch of your body, and you scream, an eagle's scream. Ragged, loud. RAWIT echoes for miles. A declaration, not a request, because now it's real. This rebirth, it's not a phase. It's not an illusion. It's happening. Every scar, every feather, every breath, earned. You sit down at the end of that day, soaked, trembling, but proud that you've stopped wondering when it'll be over. You're not asking for the finish line anymore, because you've realized something else. The point isn't the flying. It's the becoming. It's the days you showed up when no one watched. The nights you cried but still kept going. The minutes where your body screamed, "Quit," and your soul whispered, "No." That's where power lives. Not in the final victory, but in the grind that no one claps for. And you're living in that grind. Owning it, loving it, even when it hurts. Because now, for the first time, you believe, not in the sky, not in some destiny, not in the idea that things will just work out. You believe in you, the you who didn't give up, the you who clawed their way out of oblivion, the you who's almost ready to fly again, but not yet, because tomorrow, you jump, and this time, you don't land. The morning arrives in a hush, as if nature itself is holding its breath for you. The air is cool and still, tinged with that electric silence that comes just before something big happens, like the moments backstage before the curtain lifts. You stretch, and every part of you creaks like an old house coming back to life. But something's different today. You feel it. It's not in your muscles, or your wings, or your claws. It's in your mind. There's no fanfare. No cue the dramatic music. Just you, standing at the edge, and your wings? They don't ache anymore. They itch. Not with discomfort, but with readiness. This is the moment that every motivational poster on the wall of a middle school gym tried to prepare you for. Except none of them mention the sheer fear that comes with it. You glance down. The drop looks like 100 deaths, but you're not the same creature who once feared falling more than it feared never flying. This time, falling is an option you're willing to take. You lower your body. You angle your wings. And then, you leap. At first, it's chaos. Wind howls past your face. Your body tips left, then right. Your feathers catch air, then lose it. For a heartbeat, you plummet. And just as panic tightens your chest, you remember, tilt, balance, trust. Your wings stretch open, wider than ever, stronger than you thought possible. And suddenly, you're not falling. You're gliding. Then, you're rising. It's clumsy. You wobble like a toddler in rollerblades. But you're doing it. You're flying. Every tree you pass underneath flashes by like a memory you don't need anymore. Every gust of wind feels like a crowd cheering you on. You're not perfect, but you are airborne. The first 5 minutes are survival. The next 5 are adrenaline. But after that, You settle into something else, a rhythm, a calm, a weird, surreal moment where your mind finally shuts up and lets your body exist. That it's not ego. It's not pride. It's presence. And it's addicting. You start testing the limits. A dive here, a roll there, even a screech, just for fun, because why not? You earned this, and you begin to realize this is what the suffering was for. Not just so you could fly, but so you could enjoy it, savor it, not take it for granted. You were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to rebuild. You remember that quote someone once shared with you in the middle of a bad week. Something about how broken bones heal stronger than they were before. Turns out, they weren't just talking about bones. They were talking about you. Somewhere far below, a rabbit darts into the brush. You spot it instantly. Your instincts kick in. You tilt. You dive. You don't overthink it, because for once, your mind and your body are in the same story. You snatch the rabbit clean from the ground. One swift move, you land on a nearby branch, panting, but grinning, not because of the hunt, not even because of the flight, but because you proved it.to yourself. To the version of you that almost gave up. To the voice in your head that once said, "This is who you'll always be." Turns out, it wasn't that you're something else now, something wild, something dangerous, something freed as you eat. You think about something weird, caterpillars. You remember reading that when a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it doesn't just grow wings and pop out prettier. It melts, like literally turns into goo, then rebuilds itself from scratch. Like you, your transformation wasn't about adding wings or fixing a broken claw. You had to melt first, had to become something unrecognizable before you could become something unbelievable. And now, sitting on this branch, wind in your feathers, sky stretched out in every direction, you realize something else, that you're not afraid anymore. Not of falling, not of failing, not of starting over, because you did start over. You shattered, and you came back sharper, faster, stronger. You look up, there's still so much sky to cover. So many places you've never seen. So many versions of yourself still, waiting to be discovered in the clouds. And the best part, you get to choose where you go now. No longer grounded by doubt. No longer anchored by pain. No longer chained to the idea that who you were is all you could ever be. This is flight. This is freedom, and it's only just beginning. You start flying farther each day, not because you have to, but because now you want to. The wind doesn't scare you anymore. It's your compass. You read the air like sheet music. Every gust is a note. Every draft, a melody. And you're composing your comeback symphony in real time. Each wing beat carries a story, a lesson, a reminder that pain wasn't the end. It was the beginning of this. You explore more. Unfamiliar canyons, razor-thin ridgelines, silent meadows that look like paintings too still to be real. And sometimes, without warning, you just scream, not out of anger, but because the echo reminds you, you exist. Loudly, proudly, still here, but flying far also means flying alone sometimes. And one morning, that loneliness catches you off guard. You land on a jagged ledge, talons gripping the stone like it owes you rent. You stare into the horizon, and for the first time since this whole thing began, you wonder, now what? You're healed. You're strong. You're flying. But is that enough? There's a weird sort of emptiness that settles in after survival. Because when all you've done is fight, peace can feel like a void that silences you. Used to crave? It now feels suspicious. Like, shouldn't there be something to fix? Some war to fight? Some monster to outsmart? But there isn't. And that stillness, that's the next test. You don't crash. You don't spiral. You sit with it. You listen. And something soft, almost shy, shows up inside you. It's not adrenaline, not ambition. It's curiosity. Not just what's next, but what else is possible. So you start observing other eagles from a distance. And let's be real, some of them are total messes. You see one dive too hard, misjudge the wind, smack face first into a pine tree. Elegant, another gets. Distracted mid-flight, trying to show off for a hawk, and forgets to look where he's going. Splendid. You don't laugh to mock. You laugh because you get it. That used to be you. Still is, sometimes. But now, instead of judging, you study. You begin to learn all over again. Except this time, not from pain, from observation. From intention, you practice new techniques. Shorter dives, sharper turns, hovering in place. Just to flex, you mimic cloud shadows. Play tag with the wind. Try catching raindrops midair just because it's fun. That's new. Fun that it's been so long since life wasn't just about making it. You forgot that joy doesn't always have to come with a price tag or a scar. That it can just be. And then it hits you. This version of you? It's not about proving anything. Not anymore, but it's about discovering how many versions of you exist. Not because you're lost, but because you're limitless. You find a cliffside you like. High up, secluded, you make it yours. No flag planted. No eagle was here, graffiti. Just the unspoken sense that this is home now. A new chapter. But this time, you build it deliberately. You bring feathers to line the nook where you sleep. You mark a few branches for food storage. You arrange your space not out of instinct, but from a place of care. You rest without guilt, because rest isn't laziness when it's earned. And more than that, it's sacred. It allows you to look around and realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're thriving. You think about that. Old version of you, half broken, feathers dull, heart heavy, and there's no bitterness there. No shame, just gratitude, because that version walked through fire so this one could fly through sunlight. And now, even though you're still solo most days, you don't feel alone anymore. You carry every part of yourself with you. The weak, the wild, the wounded. All of it. All valid. All you. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real win here. Not the flight. Not the power. But the wholeness. You stretch your wings as night rolls in. The sky shifts from peach to gold to ink. Stars blink awake like curious children. And as the wind brushes your feathers one more time, soft and cool and whispering you, smile. Tomorrow, you'll fly farther. But tonight, you rest. And that, too, is progress. You wake before the sun. There's a stillness in the air, thick and glassy, like the world is holding its breath just for you. And you don't rush. No diving. No proving. Just a quiet stretch. A rustle of wings. A long exhale, because today, you're not testing your body. You're testing something deeper. You've come through pain. Rebuilt from scratch. Learned how to soar again. But now you're asking a different question. What's the point of flying this high? If you're the only one up here? You glance below. Far in the distance, tiny, frantic shapes dart across the forest floor. Creatures with small wings. Worn feathers. Hearts just beginning to break, or already broken. You see them trying, clawing their way towards something better, and you feel it again, that ache. Not in your wings. In your chest. You remember that version of you, scraping at your own prison with a beak too dull to do damage. And you wonder, what if someone had seen you? What if someone had reached out, even just with a glance that said, I've been there? You flap once, glide, and circle back toward the cliffs, because that ache in your chest, it isn't emptiness, it's calling. So you start showing up, subtle. At first, you don't swoop in like a hero. This isn't some cheesy bird version of a TED Talk. You just make yourself visible. You perch nearby when another eagle is struggling. You fly above in a way that says, hey, I see you. You're not alone. And surprisingly, they notice. They start watching you, mimicking your turns, studying your landings, maybe even copying that weird way you shake off the rain like a dog after a bath. Point one young eagle, feathers still patchy, talons shaky, tries to match your flight path, but he fails. Spectacularly, crashes into a bush, comes up with twigs in his beak, and a leaf in one eye, and you don't laugh. Well, okay. You chuckle, quietly, but then you fly lower. Circle him gently. Tilt your wings just enough to show. Try again this way. He does, and this time, he almost makes it. And that small almost success, it fills your chest in a way even sunlight can't. Because you're not just flying anymore, you're lifting. You begin to share the tricks you learned, the ones no one taught you. The ones you paid for in blood and silence and clawless days of limping across cold stone. How to tilt your wings just right to catch the wind when you're too tired to flap. How to land sideways on a slope so your weight won't throw you off. Balance. How to breathe. Yes, breathe. When the fear starts to chew through your ribs from the inside out. And suddenly, those moments you once hated, the crawl, the crack, the chaos, start to make sense. They weren't just suffering, they were blueprints. You didn't just survive them, you studied them, and now you teach from them. Word spreads, not in language, of course. Eagles don't gossip, but your presence becomes something others seek out. A signal, a reminder that it's possible to start over and come out stronger. But here's the twist. You're not just helping them, they're changing you, too. You see their struggle, and it sharpens your empathy like a new talon. You see their wins, and it softens your pride into something less performative, more rooted. And every time one of them rises a little higher, you realize you're not watching from above, you're rising with them. Because healing isn't a solo flight, it's a flock in disguise. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not fly ahead. Sometimes it's hovering nearby just long enough for someone else to find their wind. If that's what you do now, not every day, you still need solo flights. You still need that quiet ledge. You still need nights where you stare at the stars and let your feathers dry in peace. But more often than not, you find yourself looking outward, not to escape, to connect. You start carving new paths in the sky. Ones that other wings can follow. Not shortcuts, but guides. Not watch me, but come with me. You don't pretend to have it all together. You still mess up, still misjudge a wind shift and faceplant into a pinecone buffet now and then. But that's okay, because vulnerability, it turns out, isn't a weakness. It's permission. It says, even the strong still stumble. Even the healed still feel heavy. Even the ones who made it are still making it. And when others see that, they try, too. And that's the start of something even bigger than healing. Its legacy. Not statues, not songs, not monuments, but ripples. Waves of courage passed from one feathered heartbeat to the next. You fly back to your ledge as the sun drops behind the horizon. And this time, as you settle in, you feel it. A hum in your bones. A quiet knowing that this wasn't just your story. It was the beginning of many. And that's the kind of flight that never ends. You feel the pull again, that restless tug beneath your feathers that whispers of uncharted skies. But this time, it's different. It's not the desperate clawing of a broken bird. It's the quiet thrill of a master about to explore new heights. You decide to test yourself, not with the usual loops and dives, but with patience. You start sitting longer on your favorite perch, watching, waiting, not just for the wind, but for moments you never noticed before. The way a single leaf spirals down in a lazy dance. How the clouds shift shape like an endless slideshow. How shadows stretch and shrink like living things. You begin to realize something. Flying isn't just about moving forward, it's about being in the moment, fully in distractions, in what's next. Just now, and you surprise yourself by noticing details you missed when you were rushing to survive. Like the way the sun hits the mountain just right to make the rocks sparkle like diamonds, or the faint scent of wildflowers carried on the breeze, sweet, earthy, alive. Even the sounds, the rustle of tiny creatures, the distant call of a hawk, the whisper of wind through pine needles. They used to be background noise. Now, there's symphony. You start blending these small wonders into your daily flight. Instead of fighting the wind, you dance with it. You're learning grace, not just power. And with that grace comes humility. You remember the days you felt invincible, talons sharp and ego sharper. You cringe, but you also smile, because without that youthful arrogance, you wouldn't have dared to break free. Or rebuild. Or fly.so. You honor that part of you, the reckless, wild youth who thought nothing was impossible. And you honor this part of you, too, the wise, patient soul who knows some battles are won by waiting. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with crisp mountain air. You feel the weight of your own wings, strong but supple. You stretch them wide, catching the current. You don't fly fast. You glide, slowly, deliberately, like a painter brushing color on a canvas. Every movement intentional, every second savored. You think of Leonardo da Vinci, who said, "For once you have tasted flight, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward." You chuckle softly, because now you get it. It's not just about the thrill. It's about perspective, about seeing things differently, about understanding that sometimes the best way to move forward is to pause and look around. You lower yourself toward a lake, skimming the surface so gently your shadow barely ripples the water. You see your reflection. An eagle, strong, scarred, beautiful. A reminder that transformation isn't linear, that healing is messy, that growth is slow. And that's okay, because you're not just flying. You're living. In all your fierce, fragile glory. You tuck your wings and settle on a branch. The sky fades from blue to deep indigo. Stars blink awake again, and you realize you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Not ahead, not behind. Right here, right now. And somehow, that feels like the greatest flight of all. The night wraps around you like a velvet cloak, heavy with silence and secrets. You close your eyes, feeling the cool air brush against your feathers. And suddenly, you're somewhere else. Not in the forest, not perched on your usual ledge, but high above a vast battlefield, decades ago, where a young Winston Churchill stands firm amidst chaos and doubt. He's staring down impossible odds, the world crumbling around him. Everyone else wants to quit, but not him. He knows something you learned the hard way. Sometimes, the fiercest storms come just before the sky clears. You open your eyes and realize that's the connection. You and Churchill, both broken, both battered, but neither willing to surrender. And just like Churchill rallied a nation, you feel a fire stirring inside. A new resolve. Because no matter how sharp your claws become, or how steady your wings grow, there's always a choice: to fold into the shadows of failure, or to roar back with every ounce of strength you have left. You decide. Today you roar. You leap into the air, feathers catching the wind like a kite in a storm. This time, it's not just about survival. It's about thriving. You dive, twist, and soar higher than you ever have before. You feel the exhilaration pulse through your bones. The sky opens wide, and you own it. In that moment, you understand something profound. Pain, struggle, and regeneration aren't just hurdles. They're fuel. Fuel for greatness, fuel for transformation. And just like Churchill's unyielding spirit changed history, your own courage can rewrite your story. You circle back to your perch with a new kind of pride. Not the bragging kind, the quiet, fierce pride of someone who's been to hell and back and came out soaring. Because healing isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about becoming something new, stronger, wiser, unstoppable. You settle in, ready for whatever comes next. The sky is yours, and so are the endless possibilities. ***, you wake to a strange sound. Not the familiar rustling of leaves or the call of distant birds, but a faint humming, a vibration in the air that feels almost electric. Curious, you lift your head and scan the horizon. There, shimmering in the early light, is something you've never noticed before. A patch of sky so clear, so pure. It almost looks like a doorway. You hesitate. Part of you wants to stay safe on your ledge, but another part, the part that rebuilt itself from shattered claws, knows this is a sign, a challenge, an invitation. You take a deep breath and launch yourself into the unknown. The air shifts around you, thickening and thinning in waves like invisible currents that it's disorienting at first. You falter, wobble, even nearly fall, but then you find your rhythm. You learn to ride this new wind. And as you do, a revelation hits you. This isn't just a breeze, that it's change, constant, unpredictable, sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle. You realize that resisting change is like trying to hold on to sand that it slips through your fingers no matter how tight you clutch. So, instead of fighting, you start flowing. You adjust your wings to the new gusts. You let the currents carry you in directions you never imagined. And suddenly, fear fades, replaced by wonder. Because every twist and turn reveals something unexpected, that a hidden valley, a sparkling waterfall, that a sky painted with colors you didn't know existed. You remember something a wise teacher once said: growth begins at the edge of your comfort zone. You smile, feathers ruffling in the breeze, that you're no longer afraid of the unknown, that you're embracing it, that you're becoming a traveler of skies unseen, that a pioneer of new possibilities. And with every beat of your wings, you write a new story. Point one of courage, of resilience, of endless discovery. You glide down to a fresh ledge, heart pounding with excitement, because you know this is just the beginning. The world is vast, your wings are strong, and your journey? Well, it's only getting started. The days pass, and you begin to notice something curious. While your claws have grown sharper and your wings stronger, your mind feels lighter, less cluttered. It's like shedding layers of old fears and doubts, the kind that weigh down even the mightiest eagle. You remember the story of Thomas Edison, the man who failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Most people see failure as the end, but Edison saw it as a path, a necessary trial that led to success. You feel a kinship with him, because every scraped claw and broken feather you endured was like one of his experiments, each painful moment teaching you something new. You start to realize that resilience isn't just about enduring, that it's about learning, about adapting, about seeing setbacks not as punishment, but as tuition fees for growth. Your spirit feels lighter because you've stopped fighting yourself, stopped fearing the unknown. You breathe deep and let go of the what-ifs that once paralyzed you. And in their place, you cultivate a quiet confidence. Point one that whispers, I am enough. You look out over the horizon, where the sun melts into a golden blaze, and you smile, because you know the climb wasn't easy, but it was worth every moment. The eagle that broke its claws isn't just a myth anymore. It's your story, and it's one of courage, transformation, and unstoppable will. Now, when the wind calls, you don't hesitate. You soar that you've come far, but something deeper stirs within. A question that's been lurking beneath the surface all along. What kind of eagle do you want to be? The one who just survives, or the one who inspires? You think of Maya Angelou, who rose from pain and hardship to become a voice that lifted millions. Her words echo in your mind. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. You realize that true strength isn't just physical, that it's emotional, spiritual, that it's the courage to keep shining even when the night is darkest. You spread your wings wider than ever before, feeling the wind catch beneath them like a powerful promise. You decide that your journey won't just be about self-healing. It will be about lighting the way for others, because you know now, your scars are not weaknesses, that they're badges of honor, symbols of survival, proof that even broken claws can write stories of triumph. You make a silent vow fly, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's struggling to break free, for every soul fighting to heal, for every heart that needs a reminder. You can rise. You will rise, that no matter how many times you fall, you tuck your head, smile to the rising sun, and take off. Higher, stronger, freer. And this time, you carry more than just yourself. You carry hope. The air feels different now, thicker with possibility, lighter with purpose. You notice how every flap of your wings sends ripples through the sky, like a stone cast into a still pond. The impact of your journey stretches far beyond your own flight path. You remember the story of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison but never lost sight of freedom. His resilience changed a nation. Your resilience, you realize, can change the course of your own life, and maybe others too. You find a rhythm in your flight, steady and sure. Each beat of your wings a reminder of how far you've come, how much you've overcome. You think about those early days, the sharp pain, the broken claws, the fear that maybe you'd never fly again. And now, here you are, stronger, more determined, more alive. The sky is not just a place to survive, that it's a canvas for your dreams, that a stage for your growth. You lean into the wind and soar higher, feeling invincible yet humble, because true strength doesn't boast, that it simply is, and you're ready to keep flying. Not because it's easy, but because you know that every challenge, every fall, every struggle is just part of the journey. The journey to becoming the eagle you were always meant to be. As you glide through the endless sky, you sense a quiet power within you. It's not loud or flashy. It's steady, like the heartbeat beneath your feathers. This power is your will, your spirit, your unbreakable core. You reflect on everything that brought you here, the pain of breaking your claws, the struggle of regrowth, the fear of the unknown, and the moment you decided to roar instead of retreat. It all forged you into something new, something better. And now, as the sun begins to set, painting the horizon with shades of fire and gold, you feel a deep sense of peace. Not because the journey is over, but because you've learned that the journey is the reward, that you're no longer just surviving, you're thriving, that you're a living testament to transformation. The power of resilience. The magic that happens when you refuse to give up on yourself. You close your eyes, feeling the wind whisper through your feathers, carrying you forward into whatever comes next, because now you know, no matter what breaks you, you have the strength to rebuild, stronger, wiser, freer. And that's the true spirit of the eagle, your spirit. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Feel the calm settle in, like a gentle breeze caressing your feathers. That you've come through storms and trials, and now it's time to rest, to recharge. Let go of any tension in your body. Feel your muscles relax, your mind grow quiet. Imagine the sky stretching wide above you, endless and full of promise. Know that every challenge you face is shaping you into a stronger, more radiant version of yourself. You are capable beyond measure. Your resilience is a flame that can never be extinguished. And as you drift into this peaceful moment, carry with you the truth. You are enough. You are powerful. You are unstoppable. Let this feeling wash over you like the softest clouds, lifting you higher, ready to face tomorrow with courage and grace. Now, take one more deep breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes, carrying this strength into your day, because your journey has only just begun.